Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. Today is the 26th of April 2023, and these are the stories that we will be discussing in detail during the course of our show. We'll begin with an update as far as the security landscape of Pakistan is concerned in the whole context of the presser that was given by the Director General of the ISPR, Major General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry. He addressed a news conference in Rawalpindi. On Monday, we'll be discussing different aspects of that press conference, and we'll be discussing, of course, Pakistan's security landscape, the threat from India, and how Pakistan and its armed forces are thwarting all such attempts, also Jamaat ul-Ahrar or TTP or other such attempts, and also all the efforts laid down by the armed forces of Pakistan in different operations across Pakistan. We'll be detailing that and more in our first segment. Our second story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the situation as far as Sudan is concerned and the evacuation of different nationals, including the Pakistani nationals. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Saab has said that around 700 Pakistanis have now been safely evacuated from Sudan, from Khartoum. And now that is important because in the whole context of what is happening in Sudan, the situation is quite unpredictable and the violence doesn't seem to end as far as the latest reports go. We'll be discussing different aspects of that as well in our second story. Then we'll be talking about different diseases that have entered this region. We talked about and we have been talking about COVID-19, but now there's another new threat that has entered Pakistani territories, and that is monkeypox. It has been declared as public health emergency of international concern in the month of July by the World Health Organization, and in Pakistan there is the first case of monkeypox that has now been detected, and we'll be seeing in the next couple of days how many new cases are detected. But nevertheless, monkeypox is a disease that you need to be careful about. There is a vaccine as far as monkeypox is concerned, but you need to be careful as far as how it gets to other people, and try to prevent yourself as much as possible from the causes of transmission of monkeypox. And finally, we'll be talking about rain in Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen. This has been forecast by the government of Pakistan. It has also been said by Shahid Rahman Sahiba, our Minister for Climate Change. She has said that from the evening of the 26th of April till the 7th of May, this is what the country will be bracing, and that is rains, widespread rains. Provinces, she put in her tweet, need to take extreme cautions as far as the effects of these rains are concerned. We have already braced the floods in 2022. Therefore, we need to be extremely careful with all such heavy rains that our country is subject to in the coming days and later in the year as well. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the security paradigm of Pakistan, the security landscape and security outlook of Pakistan in the whole context of the meeting, the presser with the different sections of the press that was held by the Director General ISPR on Monday. More in the following report.
Pakistan is grappling with challenging security situation as cross-border terrorism, instability in the country, threats from the TTP, IS fighters returning to Afghanistan from several countries, the ill designs of Indian spy agency RAW pose serious security threats. The United Nations Security Council in February estimated that ISIS-K had 1,000 to 3,000 fighters and retained ambitions to conduct external operations. IS Khorasan ranks are further swelling as a result of desertions in the ranks of proscribed group Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. The annual Globe Terrorism Index released by the Australia-based Institute for Economics and Peace said that Pakistan recorded the second largest increase in terrorism-related deaths worldwide in 2022. In his maiden press conference, ISPR Director General Major General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry categorically stated that the relationship between Pakistan Army and the terrorists is only of kinetic operations, which would continue until the eradication of terrorism. Noting that acts of terrorism increased following the US exit from Afghanistan, General Chaudhry said that the outlawed TTP and other banned outfits are now working together to sabotage peace in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. According to ISPR, security forces carried out 8,269 intelligence-based operations during the previous year, in which 1,378 suspected terrorists were apprehended and 157 were killed. The TTP and other terrorist outfits regrouping in Afghanistan pose a great threat to Pakistan, and it's hoped that the recent understanding among China, Pakistan, Iran and Afghanistan to counter terrorism would produce better results.
Brigadier Retired Haris Nawaz, who is a defense analyst, joins us online. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. And of course, Eid Mubarak to you and family. I'd like to understand the whole security paradigm of Pakistan in the context of this presser that was held by the DGISPR. There were different aspects of Pakistan's security outlook that were discussed in detail by the DGISPR. What do you feel was the highlight of that presser? Do you feel it was India's involvement in Pakistan? Do you feel it was the TTP and Jamaat al-Ahrar? Do you feel it was all the efforts that have been made by our armed forces and our Jawans to thwart any attempt to destabilize Pakistan? What was the highlight in your point of view?
There were two, three important points. One was, of course, the Indian involvement in Pakistan and the importance of Kashmir for Pakistan. Number two was definitely was that the way things are Pakistan and political relationship is happening these days, and everybody saying that Pakistan made it apolitical, but then they are dragging over it. And the third was KTB involvement in Pakistan, the way things are happening, and what Pakistan Army is doing. They're carrying out all kinetic operations, and they have said clearly that it is the responsibility of Pakistan Army. We are not going to have planned another major operation like the Zarbias or the Abdul Fattah. It is a continuous operation of those operations, and we are going to be very successful, inshallah, very soon. So these were the highlights which the President said, and then he wanted to clarify that Pakistan Army respects the political leadership, respect the people of Pakistan, they respect their mandate, whatever is given to the government of Pakistan. But another important thing is that please don't drag Pakistan into this political affairs. We are apolitical. We don't want to indulge in those activities, and we expect that the political leadership will show more maturity and responsibility to find political solutions, and that Pakistan Army is away from it. Second, about Kashmir, he said Chief Amit Shah was the first, the moment the day he took over, he immediately visited line of control in Kashmir. This shows the importance of Kashmir for Pakistan Army, for the people of Pakistan. And then he said that Kashmir will, it was never for India, it will never be for India, and we ensure that ultimately that the United Nations resolution is implemented in full administration. That is the right to plebiscite for Kashmir people. And third was very important that due to the last government, there were discussions, so army had to act, and because of that reason, that PTP again came and started creating problems in Pakistan. But we are going for operations, we will not compromise, and we have gained a lot of success. We will continue doing it till the time Pakistan is cleared from all terrorism in Pakistan.
All right. Brigadier Sahib, I'd like to understand something. There's an annual global terrorism index that is released by the Australia-based Institute for Economics and Peace. It says that Pakistan is the second largest, is the country that has witnessed the second largest increase in terrorism-related cases after Burkina Faso in the year 2022. Now, looking at the security paradigm of Pakistan and the highlights of which were given by the DGISPR, should we be expecting such incidents in 2023 as well, a further increase, or do you feel that Pakistan's armed forces and Pakistan's security forces will be able to thwart these attempts to reduce the impact of such incidents in Pakistan this year?
Pakistan military, the way they are carrying out operations, the support of people of Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, should be able to control, I would say, 90% within this year and the 20 end of this year. The issue is that we have to work very hard. We have to, our army is doing their best. They are doing better hardened. They are carrying out very good operations in the direct command of Chief Army Staff and Assembly with a professional Chief Army Staff. And we hope that with the support of people of Pakistan, inshallah, we should be able to reduce this terrorism in Pakistan drastically by the end of 2023. And this is what we hope, and this is how our army is working, and they have done tremendous job. You see, the point is, then we need the support of people of Pakistan. It is social media, how things are happening. This is the responsibility of leadership of Pakistan and the political party, that they have to ensure that their social media handles the control, they are guided. Because in fifth generation war, that is what actually enemy has a narrative, to divide people of Pakistan, and the Pakistan military. Actually, you have to want to create a wedge between this. That is very serious situation because you fight as a nation. Army must have a support of people of Pakistan when you go for any operation, whether it
That
is
is
government
extremely important.
or
All these institutions need to have the support of our nation in order to further, consolidate, to further solidify their counterterrorism efforts. Now, speaking of counterterrorism, let's talk about what the DGISPR said during the course of this press meet. He said 8,269 intelligence-based operations were held in the previous year, out of which 1,378 suspected terrorists were apprehended, 157 were killed. Do you feel that our counter-terrorism strategy that is applied by our armed forces, by intelligence services, is good enough? Do you feel it needs to be further improved?
it is doing an excellent job, I would say, and they have planned in a very proper way, and now they are executing those operations the way they have been conceived. And I'm positive our counter-terrorism for people, particularly from military, they are in Balochistan, KPK, they are all working in harmony. They find out, and then they're all operational based on intelligence based operations. They get information, they immediately go for it. Whether it is night, day, all types of day, whether they are going for operation. The issue is that American, while leaving Afghanistan, have left a lot of unattended ammunition and weapons. And those will fall into the hands of these terrorist organizations. And they have the latest weapons, they have the night beam devices. But of course, now Pakistan Army has already found the way out. They are carrying operations, they have managed all the weapon equipment required to counter these terrorists. And very successfully they are doing operations. You must have seen, actually, let me tell you, out of hundreds of the enemy planned these operations, 90 are prematurely bursted by our counter-terrorism people, our security agencies, and only 1 or 2% they managed to execute, and that is a very big, small number. So that we must realize. But the only thing is, we have 3 to 4 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan, and that is the right place where it's the breeding place, it's the facilitators over there, and we have been in touch with the Afghan government to at least ensure their land is not used against any terrorist activity in Pakistan. And let's hope they understand, they realize the importance. But problem is, raw Indian government are deliberately creating terrorism in Pakistan. They are funding, they're providing reconnaissance, they're providing weapon ammunition to BLA, BLF, TTP. So these are the intricacies, these are difficulties Pakistan military is facing. But the only thing, Chief Army Staff and the military as a whole have decided to eliminate this terrorism once for all, inshallah, and it should take this year or early next year, we should be able to control all these terrorist activities in Pakistan.
All right, Brigadier Sahib, let's talk about these terror outfits that you point, some of which you pointed out, the BLA, the BLF, the TTP, there's also Jamaatul Ahrar. There are also other outfits that our intelligence services do not yet have, highlighted or told the general public in Pakistan. This said, the number of terrorist incidents is 436 over the past few years. Of the majority has been in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, and then followed by Punjab and Sindh. Are these two provinces, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, a deliberate attempt by these terror outfits? Is there a conscious attempt in order to destabilize these two provinces in particular? And if so, what needs to further be done by our intelligence agencies, by our armed forces, by our government, by our Ministry of Interior, in order to stop such activities from happening in the future, whether they happen from across the border, from Iran, from Afghanistan, or through India, directly or indirectly, or through other sources?
You see, Umar, the problem is both these provinces touch the Iran border, then Afghanistan. That is the issue we are facing. In KPK, we have a direct access to the Afghan border, and Balochistan we have Iran and Afghanistan border. And Indians, they are operating all over there. They have got their bases, and then they have the connection. They have even gone after the Afghan government they took over, but still they are having their own contacts. So this is the issue. Pakistan government has to highlight and tell to the our all ambassadors in Islamabad what India is doing, how he's getting problems. And Gulfin Jadev is a clear example where a serving naval commander was apprehended doing terrorism, and then he came on the television and he accepted all those things. That is what is the issue we must realize. We must go proactive. We must go to the Islamic world, OIC, From there, the resolution should go to United Nations that what India is doing. But the issue is the world need India for trade, for other political aims. Particularly, they use India as a proxy against China and Pakistan. Then they need in South China Sea. These are reasons they look to the other side. If these things have been coming initiated from Pakistan, I think we would have been in trouble. But the only thing is, we are taking all these operations very professionally. Our officers are leading from the front. Chief Awami staff regular keep visiting these areas. He keep visiting to see raise the morale of troops. And we are very hopeful that these fencing which we have done is 95% fencing done in Afghanistan border and 85% fencing we have done in Iran border. I think this is also going to hamper their free movement to this country, this side. And by the time these things are completed, we have the colors, the killers over there. They're all almost ready. 80 killers of one border have already constructed. So when troops presence is there, they're monitoring it. Surveillance means nothing is going to reduce drastically.
All right, Brigadier Sahib, also I'd like to have your point of view as far as the people behind the attack, whether it be on the police lines in Peshawar, who I mean the person has been identified as Imtiaz alias Tora Shah from Bajod. He came through Afghanistan, was facilitated by the TTP. Do you feel recently? I'm just stating the name of the perpetrator because there was a delegation from the Pakistani side that recently visited Afghanistan and made it very clear through facts, figures and documents who was behind attacks in Pakistan and what the Afghan government needs to do in order to prevent such attacks from happening in the future. Has the point been understood by the Afghan government? Do you feel that they will comply with the conditionalities that the Pakistani delegation has put to them?
You see, when our defense minister and DGI went to Afghanistan and they discussed each and every aspect, what Pakistan has reservations about and what all we expect from our government to do to eliminate terrorism in Pakistan. The issue is one thing you must remember, the ideology of Afghan Taliban and TTP are the same. TTP has been supporting Afghan Taliban to fight against Americans and now they're keeping quiet. Other reasons are Afghan government, they don't have a writ in their government. They're financially not sound. They can't go and control the terrorism all over the country. There are Daesh, there are Al Qaeda, then Turkestan Islamic Movement, and TTP. Now, there's so many people operating, and they're mired with their own problems, and they can't control over there. So that's the one reason. But still, Pakistan conveyed that these are, and we've identified the areas from where these attacks are initiated, where these people hiding themselves. So I think the other thing is now Pakistan should tell them that if you cannot manage, then please allow us to go for surgical strike in those areas. And that is a very good mean to eliminate and disorganize and dismantle the command structure which is over there, because that is going to reduce a lot of terrorism coming from Pakistan. This is one of the answers. But the only thing we have to be very firm, the relationship is very delicate. We want Afghan to have the best relationship with us, and there are forces working to spoil the relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan. But we know it, and that is India and Paul. So the relationship is very delicate, but we should keep working, keep pondering, and we should keep realizing Afghan government that we need a big support for that. And the only support we want is that from their side, there should be no terrorism coming to Pakistan.
All right. Finally, I'd like to take your point of view as far as a certain pattern as far as these attacks in Pakistan are concerned, attacking the police, especially the police forces and their backup whenever they rush in, to help those who are in the midst of such attacks. I'd like to also understand what is the strategy of these terror outfits. What do they want to do? What is the ultimate aim? Whether it be the TTP, whether it be the BLA, or whether it be the Jamaat al-Ahrar, whether it be even ISIK, Khorasan. We know that the US has had a lot of apprehensions about that. We have also heard might be operating in Pakistan as well. That and other small outfits that we have not been told about, but are still in Pakistan through sleeper cells, through others, as mentioned by the DGISPR. What is the ultimate game or aim of these terror outfits, and in your point of view, what needs to be done by Pakistan nationally and internationally?
You see, one important thing is their strategy is very clear. They are going for police, they go for civil armed forces, because the reasons are very clear that they want to lower the morale of these law enforcing agencies, particularly police, because they are on the front and they have to fight with them, and they are doing an excellent job. They're doing professional job. Despite the attack in police science shower, our morale for our police is very high. They have not never went down. And then of course that is the main issue they wanted. Now for this we have to ensure that we have safe cities. Peshawar, Quetta, Karachi, Lahore, these must be converted into proper safe cities. Camera should be overlapping to an extent that from where the terrorist came, entered, it should be viewed by the camera, what it did, that will be viewed, and then where it has hidden. So if we find these tracks available and we apprehend, then it is going to affect the further coming operations, because then their morale is going to be down, that we are always thought we are killed, we are not able to complete our operation. That is important thing. Along with, we must keep telling OIC, we keep telling the international organizations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Organization, and United States, and our close friends in region, Russia, China, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, that this is what is happening, and it can be very serious consequences for the region. Because this region, we have the two nuclear powers, and both powers have the veto power in the United Nations. So that is what we have to tell them.
Let's see what happens in the next 2 years. But of course, as far as our armed forces is concerned, as enunciated by the DGISPR, we are ready for any such incursion or attack in the future as well. And our armed forces and our defense forces are ready to thwart any such attempt, whether it be through Iran, whether it be through Afghanistan, whether it be indirectly through India. And of course, we know because we have the documentation as well as to who is behind it and what is the strategy of those who are trying to destabilize Pakistan directly or indirectly. Thank you so very much, Brigadier Retired Haris Nawaz Saab, Defense Analyst, to have joined us, to have talked to us about Pakistan's security outlook, Pakistan's security paradigm, as has been detailed in this latest presser by the DGISPR. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the situation as far as Sudan is concerned. Since the 15th of this month, two top army generals are clashing, and this has resulted in extreme instability in Sudan. Many countries are evacuating their nationals, so has Pakistan. Around 700 people have been evacuated from Khartoum. More in the following report.
Eruption of fighting in the Sudanese capital brought to Khartoum 7 million people the realities of Sudan's multiple fault lines. Fighting rages on between warring factions, the country's army and a powerful paramilitary group known as the Rapid Support Forces. The two forces' uneasy alliance broke down during negotiations involving the transition from a military government to civilian rule. The packed metropolis is on the verge of a colossal humanitarian disaster, especially as its already weakened health system is coming to a standstill. Water and electricity are cut, and food is increasingly hard to purchase. According to the UN, shortages of food, water, medicines and fuel are becoming extremely acute, especially in Khartoum and surrounding areas. The UN Refugee Agency has estimated that 270,000 people are poised to flee across Sudan's borders into South Sudan and Chad and other neighbouring countries. The United States and European, Middle Eastern, African and Asian nations, including Pakistan, launched emergency missions to bring to safety their embassy staff and Sudan-based citizens by road, air and sea. In areas where intense fighting has hampered humanitarian operations, aid agencies have been forced to reduce their footprint. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned that Sudan is on the edge of the abyss and the violence could engulf the whole region and beyond. The current clashes can pose a grave danger, but also an opportunity for Sudan to overhaul its politico-administrative system.
To discuss the situation in Sudan in detail and also with the Pakistani perspective, we've been joined in the studios by Dr. Tughral Yamin. He's a senior analyst. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. And welcome to our show after a very, very long time. It's always a pleasure to discuss with you because you have a thorough insight about international and national issues. Likewise. Dr. Saab, let's begin with Sudan. Let's begin with this clash between these two generals that has been continuing since the 15th of this month. Doesn't show any sign of abating. There is a ceasefire, a UN brokered ceasefire that is in place since 2 days. But what do you foresee? Will the ceasefire persist for the next couple of days? Do you feel that there is one side that will overpower the other side? Do you feel also that there is some kind of a chance that a truce might happen between these two sides?
Omar Sahab, I think the ceasefire will only hold if there are enough incentives both sides. Currently, there aren't incentives for any side, because nobody has said, okay, Al-Burhan, you will take over, or Hameti, you will take over. These are the two generals who are fighting.
Is it a clash of egos then?
Yeah, there are clash of egos, clash of everybody wants power. So they want power, and they want indisputed power, and they'll continue fighting with each other. It is a US brokered ceasefire.
Yes.
Incidentally, it has been holding so far, but I don't know how long it will hold. They will fight it out. And incidentally, Omar al-Bashir, who was the disposed general, has fallen sick, and he's been removed to the hospital. So Sudan has been a military fiefdom for a very, very long time. We know there was Jafar al-Numeri for many years. Then there was Omar al-Bashir for 30 years. Then there was, in between, there were civilian rule also. But again, Al-Burhan came in, Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, and then he promised that, no, number one, he said, I'll make it a secular country. And secondly, I will bring in democracy. And that hasn't happened.
Will that happen? Do you foresee democracy in a country like Sudan?
I doubt it very much. Although there is a political mission, UN political mission in Sudan, which is called the United Nations Integrated Transition Mission. It's a political mission. There is a German, Dr. Volker Perthes is his name, Perthes, I'm not exactly sure, who is
Volker Perthes.
Perthes, yeah, who was overlooking this entire process. But I
he's the UN envoy to Sudan.
Yeah, the UN envoy, the SRSG. So, but I doubt it very much. When there's no will at the top, you cannot enforce.
You know, Dr. Sir, we talked about, you corrected me and you said it was not the United Nations, but the US brokered truce that has entered its second day. How important is the influence of the USA on both the sides?
US has lots at stake. One, if you recall, there was an attack on Al-Shifa medical facility long time ago. And they said that they are manufacturing chemical weapons, and the Americans launched a missile attack. Later it was proved that it was absolutely wrong. They were producing life-saving drugs. So they have always been very suspicious about Sudan. They thought that it's an Islamist country.
All right.
And this has been a colonial, there is the colonial legacy also. You remember Lord Kitchener, who fought the Mahdist forces, and he was credited with defeating them in the famous Battle of Omdurman that was fought, I think, in the turn of this previous century, 1902 or something like that. And Kitchener was very important for our country also because he reorganized the Indian armed forces. So, long story short, Sudan is mineral rich, got lots of resources, lots of oil. They've already been able to get away the southern portion of it and make a Christian country of it. Then there is turmoil in Darfur. Pakistani peacekeepers are in Darfur. Pakistani peacekeepers are also in Abyei. There is a Pakistani woman, AIG Helena Said Iqbal, who is the top policewoman in Sudan on behalf of the United Nations. So their problems have been created. The peacekeepers don't go unless problems are created.
All right.
And there's always some
is this a very complicated situation as far as your point of view is concerned? And secondly, you did mention chemical weapons, and you did mention, you know, this angle. And I'd like to highlight what the WHO also said on Tuesday, that one of the parties had taken control of a national health facility, quote unquote, that stores measles and cholera pathogens for vaccinations. Right. And they said that the lab was completely under the control of one of the fighting parties as a military base, and talks about chemical hazards, bio-risk hazards that are very high due to the functioning generators. So that brings me back to what you just said.
Yes, that these are biological weapons, you see. Malaria,
measles,
yeah, measles pathogens and something else also.
Cholera.
So these are biological weapons, and it's so easy to produce chemical and biological weapons. Unlike nuclear weapons, these are the poor man's weapons of mass destruction. So they're easy to produce and easy to use also. And although we have the Chemical Weapon Convention and also BCW, also Biological Chemical Weapon Convention, etc., but they are still being produced, and they have potential of being used. Iraq has been accused of using it. Syria has been accused of using it. Although Syria's chemical weapons were destroyed, and the CWC was awarded the Nobel Prize also for that. But these are weapons which are dangerous and which can be used, and United States has lots at stake in Sudan.
All right. So, I mean, which means that it can play a proactive role as far as maybe bringing some kind of a truce between the two warring factions is concerned. Because the United Nations also talks about, the United Nations also says that, you know, we are heartbroken, Antonio Guterres says we are heartbroken by the current situation in Sudan. But the fact remains that the situation is there, the situation sees no way of, you know, getting better in the coming days. But are people thinking of the nationals that are in Sudan, of the food security, of the water, lack of water and water resources that are present in Sudan, of all those hospitals that have been destroyed, so medical facilities are not available to them. The situation for the general public, for the layman in Sudan is also not that, is also quite bleak rather.
Omar Sahab, the Europeans and North Americans are more worried about white people. They will be very, very worried, and they are worried about the Ukrainians being killed. But Africans or Asians are cannon fodder. They are not bothered. They would rather that they die and a situation is created.
So there's a deliberate hypocrisy as far as or Hippocratic diplomacy.
Absolutely, they would like people to die, and then they will send a humanitarian mission over there, and then they will have influence over there. They let the situation on the boil. They let these parties fight amongst themselves, and that's all that they will do. Maximum, they are going to send peacekeepers over there, and peacekeepers also go there only if the P5 permit them to go. Otherwise, they don't go.
All right.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a serious calculation of how this situation is going to move, and how good or bad will the coming days or weeks prove to be. This said, in your point of view, is the Sudan conflict the result of a serious miscalculation, diplomatic, political, or military?
I think the things were on the boil for a very long time, and I think this was deliberately allowed to come to a boil. But more than the United States of America, Egypt should be worried. The OIC should be worried. The African Union should be worried. They aren't playing any proactive role.
And why is that in your point of view?
Apathy. What else can I say?
All right.
They need to because Sudan has borders with Egypt. They are sitting on the Nile.
But it has borders with 7 countries. What happens if this boils over in this neighborhood countries?
They have, with Eritrea, they have got. There's so many other countries, because and they are very geostrategically placed. They are also bordering on the Red Sea. So this is a very, very important area. And if the people continue fighting over there, then extra-regional forces will have their say. You see, already there are military bases in Djibouti, which includes, among other countries, China also. So the Arabs should be worried, the Africans should be worried, they should be playing a very
But you say they're not that worried, their lack of apathy, as you yourself put it. Why?
Political will, that has been the case with them most of the time in most of the conflicts that have taken place in Africa, you see.
But can the Arab world, can the African world, permit a conflict such as this in the year 2023, when there is so much happening around the world?
They shouldn't. That's what I'm saying. But they let it happen. They are more worried about other things. Perhaps they're more concerned about having peace with Israel than controlling their own backyards.
So I come back to the same point. Is there a serious miscalculation?
It would be a serious miscalculation on the part of the Africans, but not on the part of people who want this conflict to go on. You see, Darfur, south of Sudan, it's not a stable area. A country has been created, it's not a stable country. The president and vice president continue fighting amongst each other. South of Sudan is oil rich. This area has so much minerals that it can be anybody's guess. So they would like the forces that want space to be created for them, they would like this war to continue. And
does that remind you of Iraq? Does that remind you of other such incidents that happened in the past?
So many, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. See, in Afghanistan, in our backyard, they let a war prolong for 20 years. 20 years.
And what happened at the end?
Nothing. The people are still dirt poor, and a regime has come in who are basically misogynist. They would like to go back to the 15th century. They would not like girls to go to schools and colleges and girls to work and things like that. So they don't have any interest of the people at heart. They would like to use these people as battle laps. They would use their weapons and they would sell these weapons and they will continue this war. So perhaps they would like the Islamists to be finished forever, good or bad. I don't say
It also helps the war machinery, doesn't it?
Sorry, yeah, the military industrial complex, it benefits most from any conflict. And the military industrial complex come into play. They say, okay, buy tanks from us, buy artillery guns from us, buy drones from us, buy aircraft from us. So this is a whole vicious cycle.
But in the whole context, there's John Kirby, who's a spokesperson of the White House National Security. He says that the US will continue to remain involved in order to find a resolution to the crisis and will continue to work with regional parties. Is the resolve to find a solution genuine?
They're doing it because they want to remain preeminent in the region. Chinese are already taking over their brokered peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
That was a huge thing that happened.
Absolutely.
Did the US predict it could happen? I don't think so.
I don't think it came as a surprise for most of us. Then they're saying that we are going to bring peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And now suddenly, United States again finds itself in the limelight. Okay, you broker peace over there, we will handle Sudan.
All right.
They're creating space for themselves.
Well, looking at the past, do you feel they can broker a peace deal between the two warring factions? Or do you feel that we will need the intermediation of countries such as China or other Muslim countries in order to broker peace between these two factions?
Absolutely. We do need other parties who should join in because there's a lot of stake at stake. Even the OIC should play a proactive role now. OIC, Sudan is one of a big Muslim country, not a small, big Muslim country. So OIC should be cognizant of what is happening over there, and people, whether Christians or whether Muslims or whether animists, whoever is dying there, are at the end of the day human beings. So we should be bothered about them, whether they're Africans, or Asians, or European.
Of course. Now the United Nations Refugee Agency says it is bracing of the evacuation of up to 270,000 people to flee Sudan and go to Chad or to South Sudan. Pakistan has had the evacuation of around 700 of its nationals. That has been confirmed by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Saab as well. Do you feel that these evacuations will continue? Do you feel that Sudan will be left only with the Sudanese at the end of the day in the next couple of weeks, and it will take a long time for all of those who have been working in Sudan to return to the country? Or do you feel that some good might come out due to the intervention of the friendly countries or countries such as China or the US to broker peace?
No conflict comes to an end immediately. There's no magic wand.
True.
So you see what is happening now. It will take a few years to settle down. Okay, and United States has created space for itself. It will play a major role, and very soon, after the embassies have closed shop and left, most of them have left, their place will be taken over by INGOs, and they are going to be involved in relief operations, and they will make more space for themselves. It should not happen. It should come to an end. At the end of the day, it's people, common man, who is suffering.
Exactly. I mean, the common man who is in shortage of food, in shortage of water, in shortage of health facilities. It's not all those who are at the helm of affairs as far as these warring factions are concerned. They have all the resources available. It's the common man does not have these resources. But what is the larger game plan in the whole African continent, in your point of view?
Africa as a whole is a resource-cursed continent. They have got immense resources, and Sudan is no exception. So if there is turmoil in Africa, look at DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. We sent our first peacekeepers in 1960, and now it's 2023. Pakistani peacekeepers are still there. So there is a game plan. They don't want these countries who are sitting on top of so many resources to be peaceful. They would like. Iraq was a similar case. Iraq was full of oil, perhaps. They still have lots of oil. Afghanistan has so many resources. They said it's Saudi Arabia for lithium, which is a rare earth metal. All our mobile telephones, the batteries are made of lithium. So I think it's a larger game plan.
Are the RSF or the Sudanese general being backed by other forces?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. I believe there are certain very important Arab countries who are backing Houthi. and Israelis are also backing them. Israelis have a very large presence in south of Sudan.
Okay.
So there are parties who are interested, who are how do they fight? Somebody gives them money, and
you need to have the resources in order to, you know, stand.
So even if Taliban fight, they get money from somewhere. TTP fights you. We were talking to the other gentleman. They get money from somewhere. They don't have any indigenous.
Nothing
resources.
happens without resources, you know.
It's the money that makes the mayor go. So they have backers. There's no doubt about it.
At the end of the day, with the evacuations that are currently happening and what the United Nations Refugee Agency predicts, and of course the Pakistani nationals that are still also, amongst other nationals that are still in Sudan, do you feel that they need to also be evacuated in the coming days, or do you feel a certain percentage of different nationals will continue to remain and continue to work in Sudan?
If you go by empirical evidence, there are still Western nationals in Afghanistan. So the people remain there. They are journalists, they are aid workers, they are other people with other interests, intelligence operators. So people would remain over there. But from Pakistan's point of view, how soon would we be able to reopen our embassy? That's an important thing. Because, for example, in Kuwait, we were able to reopen our embassy, I think in a year or two's time. Somalia, we've not been able to open our embassy. So Sudan is far too important to be left without diplomatic
strategic importance, as you yourself mentioned.
So you cannot leave it without a functional embassy. Even in Afghanistan, you see, although our embassy has been attacked, it has been ransacked, our CDA has been sniped upon, and still we have not closed it. So my main concern is how soon we will pick up the courage to reopen our embassy.
All right. So the next couple of days become very important. Absolutely. The next couple of days also become very important as far as some kind of a truce or extension of this current truce that is US brokered is concerned, is related, whether this will continue, whether sense will prevail, which I don't see prevailing in either of the two factions. But let's hope some kind of intermediary truce comes into force that will remain and that will give rise to some kind of a negotiation or negotiated process between the two parties. Thank you so very much, Dr. Tughral, Yamin, senior analyst, to have joined us, to have talked to us about Sudan. It was a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Saab, as it always has been. Thank you so very much, sir. Let's come to our last two stories, ladies and gentlemen. The first concerns the monkeypox situation. You might think that I'm monkeying around. I am not. This is a new disease that has been prevalent across the world. There is a vaccine that is also available, but it was not that prevalent in Pakistan. But we had seen a case in India around a year back, and it had been predicted that it might enter Pakistan one way or the other in the next few months, and it has actually happened. There has been one case that has been confirmed by the NIH, and so we need to take the necessary precautions as far as the monkeypox is concerned. It is a viral zoonotic disease which is caused by a pox virus. It is contagious. It is you can get it from a person through touch, you can get it from a person through close contact, through droplets, from humans to humans, from animals to humans as well. There's around 87,000 laboratory confirmed cases in the world. 119 deaths have occurred from 111 countries globally. In Pakistan, since May of 2022, a total of 22 samples had been collected. The first case now has been confirmed from travelers who arrived recently in Pakistan, and now this traveler has been isolated at the PIMS hospital in Islamabad, and others are also being investigated. We need to be extremely careful as far as that is concerned. Vigilance has been put in place at the airports, at different other places where there is a transit between different countries or through borders. We need to be careful, and I think the only way is to be safe and take the necessary precautions. Last story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the weather situation in Pakistan. Our Minister for Climate Change, Shahid Rahman Sahiba, has tweeted about it. She has said from the evening of the 26th of April to the 7th of May, the government of Pakistan has forecast rain across the country, and she advises the provinces to take precautionary measures that include cleaning storm drains, electricity pole stability and road access in the event of local flooding, especially where repair works from the 2022 flood are still ongoing. She also added that heavy floods and rains not floods, may cause flash floods in Mansehra, Aptabad, Chitral, Dir, Swat, Kohistan, Gilgit-Baltistan and Kashmir from the 1st to the 4th of May, and in parts of Balochistan and hill torrents of DG Khan from the 28th of April until the 2nd of May. Be very vigilant. We've all seen what happened in the end of 2022. We need to be careful as to such events not happening. So take the necessary precautions, and of course be extremely careful as of when these heavy rains happen. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.